So what I wanted to discuss in this talk is sort of a general philosophy or approach when you're really stuck with something. And this can be, it could be something like not knowing how to solve a Rubik's Cube, which I've never solved, but I will someday, and I don't want to look at the answer. Or it could be you're stuck in a situation at work, something you're trying to solve, or an interpersonal challenge. And there are times when you just really, you've tried everything. You're at your wit's end in a certain respect. And I think one of the issues that helps us stay stuck is the more that we go into whatever that situation is, it almost brings us further into a stuck state. It reminds me at least of what I heard about quicksand. I've never been in quicksand, luckily. But what I've heard about it is the more you struggle, the more you actually get pulled down into the quicksand, or those that finger trap that it's like a little woven thing, and the more you pull, the more it tightens, and it actually solidifies the way in which you're stuck. And I know from my own experience, especially if it's something that I'm sort of confused by or overwhelmed by, the more I go into it, the more it's like it's stirring up the dust, which makes it harder to solve whatever you're solving. So now for, perhaps an alternate approach. And the way that I think about it is, whenever you have a situation like this, there's the situation, there's the data about whatever's going on. It's me and another person, or me in relation to a puzzle or a challenge. And then there's the state that we're experiencing about that challenge. And one thing I know pretty much for sure is, if we're bringing the same state to something, most likely it's not going to bring a new solution. If we're bringing the same state, or if we're bringing the same perspective, it's really hard to tease out a new solution, because something I've mentioned in other videos is, when you're in a stuck state, it's almost as if you have amnesia for all the resources and resourcefulness and ingenuity that you may have in your personal experience. It's as if you have blinders on. So the principle that I bring to any sort of stuck state is, the first thing that I need to do is change my state, and really change it to just about anything else. There's a saying, which I sort of attribute to NLP, which is, if what you're doing isn't working, try anything else, because anything else you'll have a better chance than what you're doing, because what you're doing isn't working. So the first thing I'll try to do is really bring a different state. So if the state I'm in is frustration, or feeling overwhelmed, or feeling confused, or feeling angry, whatever the state is, do whatever I can to get into a different state. So shake it off, take a moment and center yourself, and really even walk away from the situation completely. Like, give yourself a break, go for a walk, go for a run, do a physical class, do yoga, or dance, or martial arts, anything else to bring you into a different state. One of my favorite things to do is to watch a movie, or to watch a comedy, something that's going to just kind of get things flowing in my state. And then when I'm in the other state, just look at even just a tiny piece of that situation, and pay attention to whatever you notice that's slightly different than something you had noticed before. So if it's a personal interaction, instead of getting caught up in the story again, which only will pull you back into that state, pull you back into that quicksand, what's something that you can notice that you didn't notice before? Maybe you notice that, you stand at a certain distance from the person every time. So that's something to notice, and it's new data. It's something you can play with. Maybe you notice that your voice gets uncertain when you're having an argument. So now you have a new dial you can play with. You can ground your voice. Maybe you notice your breathing gets tense, and so you can play with your breathing. And anytime you notice yourself slipping back into that previous state, you want to snap out and again go back and change your state. It may only take a few moments. Go somewhere else, relax, refresh, get a different perspective, perhaps some humor, and then look at it again. And again, each time, just trying to take a little piece, something that you can notice or perceive about this in a different way. So that little by little, you can begin to know the situation in a new way. Because that's something that will bring new insight. If you learn to know the situation in a new way, so bringing a new perspective, a new story, a new state, essentially. If you can bring some humor to it, you'll be light years ahead of where you had been. Very often what people do is they go and they change their state, but then they walk right back and collapse into the old state, which won't really solve anything. So the thing to begin practicing is, how can I bring the new state to the situation that used to perplex me and that I'm now gaining some new insight into? So that's something I would recommend as a general principle. I told you a little bit about how you can start to play with that. And there are many ways that you can do this. The main thing is to practice and get used to shifting into a different state and practicing states where you feel resourceful, where you feel inventive, where you feel passionate and humorous and loving. Those are great states, or creative. Those are great states to bring to something where you felt perhaps stuck or disempowered in any way. So I hope that works for you, and give it a try.